Welcome to Center Left. Welcome to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name is David. I'm the host, and this is the weekly live stream that we do on Fridays. If you like the channel, please like and subscribe. Send this out to your friends. Spread the word about what I do. I do generally videos covering different topics, and then I try to do live streams at least on Fridays in order to just discuss, the overall thoughts a little bit more in depth or a little bit more loosely than in the specific videos where it's specifically targeted at things. If you also like what I do, you can follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas, and you can listen to me on Center Left Radio on the on their podcast. I did one earlier today, so that should be up soon. So for this one, we're going to cover the minimum wage. We're going to cover CPAC. We're going to cover Andrew Coumo. So the minimum wage, because the parliamentarian made a ruling last night. We are going to cover Coumo because I haven't talked about him yet, and he's done a lot of bad things. And we have to cover CPAC because CPAC is, worth covering. It started Thursday. Currently, Tom Cotton's either currently talking or finished talking. I have the list of who's talking, so I'll pull that up later, and we'll go over that. So let's discuss the minimum wage. The minimum wage. The reason that's in the news right now is because the parliamentarian said that it is not allowed in no, let me rephrase it. The parliamentarian made their recommendation for the Senate bill. So what happens is that they are trying to pass the bill through budget reconciliation. And in order to do that, they need a parliamentarian to make a recommendation about whether or not certain aspects of the bill will affect the economy through the Byrd rule. That's basically what the parliamentarian does. Parliamentarian is basically like a judge, but whatever they say is not binding. You can fire the parliamentarian and you can overrule the parliamentarian. The Republicans have fired parliamentarians in the past because they didn't like the rulings that they got. So the parliamentarian said that Bernie Sanders' persuasion to add the minimum wage to a $15 minimum hour, $15 over the next 4 years cannot be in the bill. So, or that was their recommendation. So what can be done about this? Well, there's a couple things. First, the vice president can overrule the parliamentarian because, like I've said now multiple times, the parliamentarians is not a binding rule. It is a suggestion. It is their recommendation. So the vice president Kamala Harris, if she really wanted $15 minimum wage and they wanted $15 minimum wage, they could say it is possible to just say thank you, no thank you. So we're going to we're just going to put it in the bill and we'll vote on the bill through reconciliation. Because here's the big holdup for this bill. The big holdup is not Republicans, because Republicans have already made it clear that they will not vote for this bill under any circumstances. They've said that. Regardless of whether or not there's a $15 minimum wage in it, they're not going to vote for it. The best they will vote for, at least in the Senate, is their $600 billion compromise, which does not cover enough things. Even this bill, which is 3 times the size, is not encompassing enough for what the crisis that we're facing. And the part of the reason we have not been able to, we have to keep passing these bills is because they haven't done enough to cover the scope of the crisis each time. They just keep getting smaller as the appetite to pass stimulus keeps falling because they're not covering enough. The biggest bill was the first one, and that gave almost all of the wealth away. It was the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the country, ever, at any point. And that's why this bill needs to be at least passed in its current form. So if they're not going to overrule the parliamentarian, how else can they get the $15 minimum wage? Well, they would have to bring it up through an actual bill. So that bill would have to go through the 60 vote threshold. Why does it need a 60 vote threshold instead of a 50 vote threshold? It's because of the filibuster. So if you're doing something through budget reconciliation, you only need 50 votes because this was decided. Some things like keeping funding going are just too important to debate over. So we'll have this threshold, and that's how we'll be able to cut through the gridlock in order to make sure that the government and stuff keeps working. The filibuster was put into place in order to stop progress, literally to stop progress. It was designed to stop civil rights advancement and to desegregation. That was the idea behind it. It was used and it was pitched as this idea we have to debate. The Senate is the center of debate and bipartisanship, and just a couple people just figuring out, just discussing things and making sure that we had the best ideas for everybody, come to an agreement. That's not how it's been. It's basically been used as a bludgeon for the minority to kill any other bills. So the Republicans have basically said we're not going to sign on to any bill that comes out for a $15 minimum wage. Their options have been the $10 minimum wage in proposal. So currently the national minimum wage is $7.25. There are multiple states that have $15 minimum wage. There are states that have a little less than that. They're the 10 or 11, 12. Of the 6 senators who have signed on to Mitt Romney and Tom Cotton's bill, one of them being Tom Cotton, 2 of the other, I don't remember which exactly senator it is, 2 of the 6 senators, their states already have a higher minimum wage than $10. So they're already saying that they're signing on to this just for the clout of saying, I want to help raise the minimum wage, but I don't want to raise it to a living wage. That's what they're saying. So really the biggest implement to the $15 minimum wage is Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. So Joe Manchin has decided that the whole country should basically have the minimum wage of West Virginia. He said that because West Virginia can only exist he said, $11 minimum wage is fine for us in West Virginia, even though the people of West Virginia are pushing for a $15 minimum wage, because they've had meetings with him and they've had to push for stuff like this where they're arguing we need a better minimum wage. We need the $15 an hour. Joe Manchin has said, no, we're getting 11. So as I've said before, if you really wanted to make it as cutthroat as possible, you say, okay, Joe, we will put it to $15 minimum wage for everywhere else in the country except for you in West Virginia and for Kristen Sinema, whatever she thinks it is. And that's how we will push that bill. And then we can pass it through. We're not going to get the Republicans, so then we have to do filibuster reform. So the reason we need filibuster reform is there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. We need to do the John Lewis Voting Rights Act in order to protect protect our voting, and make sure it's not gerrymandering, make sure there's not voter suppression, making sure that people continue to have the rights to vote in our democracy. Because after the previous election, there have been 108 bills currently introduced in order to curb voting, allowing make it harder, make it more difficult, strike people from the rolls, make it more difficult for them. So there's 2 ways to deal with the filibuster. There's at least off the top of my head, I'm sure there's other ways people can think. You can do an outright removal of the filibuster with 50 votes. They can decide to say, you know what, we don't want the filibuster anymore, and remove it. The problem with that is if you lose the majority, then you're at the mercy of whoever has the votes. The other thing is you do it as you amend the filibuster. So right now it's 60 votes. So you say, okay, so we're going to actually debate these things. Currently, they don't actually have to debate things. They can just say, no, you're not going to get 10 votes. The bill is dead on arrival. That's where that phrase comes from. You say, all right, we're going to actually debate for the first week. And then if we haven't come to an agreement for 60 votes, the next week it's 55 votes. And then the week after it's 50 votes. Because then that way you have this idea, you continue to keep up this idea that the Senate is about vigorous debate and where, the battle of ideas is waged. But you don't ultimately kill every single piece of legislation because people are just going to decide, we don't want to have this bill regardless. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what your arguments. It doesn't matter what the American people want. Because much like the COVID bill that the 0 Republicans are signing on, $15 minimum wage has a massive following. It's just huge. So it has a lot of support. So there's that. So those are the options. The problem is it doesn't appear that it certainly appears they're not going to fight the parliamentary. That certainly appears out of the way. So the Biden administration has to force this $15 minimum wage, and they have to start twisting the arms of Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema to get them to do something on filibuster reform. Because right now there's currently 3 separate things that could come out. With the minimum wage being the third. They got the COVID bill. They already know they're not going to get any Republicans on that. They just passed the Equality Act, which I've been talking about all last week. Only 3 Republicans voted for it. Last time it was 206. So 3 Republicans have said that 3 Republicans are the only ones who have said it's not okay to discriminate against trans people and gay people based on their sexual identity or gender. That's where it stands. So whether they pass in the House, they'll probably kill it in the Senate. So then when you bring up a $15 minimum wage, because currently it is in the COVID bill through the House side, but I think they have to take it out if they're not going to fight the parliamentarian on the Senate side. Once that happens, and the Republicans shoot it down again, I think the Democrats have look. This is the option they have. They say, okay, they didn't want to give you help on COVID bill. They didn't want to try to change discrimination, and they don't want to raise your wages. We're doing all the right things to reach out for them. At this point, they have shown us that there is no room for unity. They have made it very clear that they will not do anything. So we're going to look into changing the filibuster. They're going to whine and complain about it, but they're also standing in the way of helping the American people. And that is the truth. And that's how they have to say it. Will they do that? I don't think so. I think they're going to just roll over on this and we're not going to get it. I hope to be surprised. Because this has the support. There is another option, like a stopgap option that Bernie is proposing. He's proposing an amendment in the COVID bill. So we're going to look at that for a second. Okay, so this is his statement on the parliamentarian, and where that stands. So what he says here is. So what he says here is that that the Washington D.C. The February 26th. I strongly disagree with tonight's decision by the Senate parliamentarian to. Actually, you know what? Hold on one second. I just realized I did not change my settings for this. Give me 1 second. Okay. Anyway, I'll just read it to you because I realize I haven't changed the settings. So he says, I strongly disagree with tonight's decision by the Senate parliamentarian. The CBO made it absolutely clear that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour and had a substantial budgetary impact and should be allowed under reconciliation. It is hard for me to understand how drilling for oil in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuges was considered to be consistent with the bird rule while increasing the minimum wage is not. 60% of American people want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The House of Representatives has voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The President of the United States wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I'm confident we have the majority of the U.S. Senate, including the Vice President, that would vote to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour as part of the President Biden's American Rescue Plan. Yet because of the archaic and undemocratic rules of the Senate, we're unable to move forward and end starvation wages of this country and raise the income of 32 million struggling Americans. The fight continues. At the coming days, I will work with my colleagues in the Senate to move forward on it with an amendment to take tax deductions away from large profitable corporations that don't pay workers at least $15 an hour and to provide small businesses with the incentive they need to raise wages. That amendment must be included in this reconciliation bill. So that's a good amendment. But the thing is, you have to make this amendment hurt enough that they're going to actually want to raise the minimum wage. Because there are places that have raised the minimum wage. At least yesterday, Costco came out and said, we're going to raise our minimum wage to $16 an hour. And they said, we're not doing this, to be like woke or altruistic or enough. They're like, this is the competing wage. If we want to continue to keep our workers and have them, want to stay with us, we have to pay them a wage that they can live on and that they can find acceptable. That's what the $15 minimum wage is. That's what it is. It's not forcing people to get, the argument is always, why not raise it to $1 million? No, it's give it to them so they can work and survive for a living. So I'm upset with the parliamentarian's ruling. I think it's wrong. Kamala Harris can overturn it if she wants to. She's not going to, but we'll see if they actually bring up a $15 minimum wage bill and if they just roll over on it because the Republicans won't budge with their reconciliation. So, and the filibuster. All right, so very quickly on Coumo, because I realize now that I had to change some stuff on my side because I was having programming issues, so I can't pull up the clips the way that I want them to. So Coumo was laundered for how well he did during the pandemic. He wrote a book, How I Defeated the Pandemic, which is kind of weird seeing, it's not over. We just hit 500,000 people dead. So it's not over. We have, so we still have lots of issues, but, he was kind of lauded in the beginning for his the way he handled the nursing homes, whether how he sent people back and how they recorded the numbers and the number of deaths for that. So that was one of the issues that he dealt with in the now we have actual proof because the AG has said, look, you did not handle this correctly. We have to go in and we have to look into this because your numbers are wrong. One of his aides was caught saying to people like, look, yeah, we kind of froze because we didn't know if we were supposed to give it to the Department of Justice. We weren't sure if the Trump administration was going to attack us for these numbers. So basically what they did is they hid the numbers. That's wrong, and it's bad. They should not have done that. And I hope that, there's an actual investigation and whatever it finds, if there's, if it finds that people have purposely done this, which it looks like it did. It certainly, from the evidence that has been available, it looks like they purposely hid this and it caused a number of deaths. And that they hold people responsible, whether it's Cuomo himself or whichever administrators were putting in charge. They need to hold these people responsible because you can't. That's unacceptable. You have to make an example of people. You hold Cuomo to a standard, and then if you hold Cuomo responsible, then when people say, "Oh, look how great Ron DeSantis is," you say, "Well, Ron DeSantis was just as bad, if not worse, than Cuomo on these issues," because we know he was. We know that he has hidden data because the person who was in charge of setting up that data was fired and then arrested when they would not alter the data for them. The other thing with the Cuomo is this allegation that he has sexually harassed one of his I think it's his staffer. I don't. This is a video. This is not a topic I've looked into. But look, this goes to the same thing I said before. It should be looked into, and if the allegations are credible, and they are, as they kind of appear to be, then he deserves to step down. Look, you can't. The problem, the Republicans are always going to say, oh, look, you're not practicing what you're preaching. There are going to be certainly cases that are where they don't there's false equivalency. Like they tried to do false equivalency between Roy Moore and Al Franken. Now remember, Roy Moore was credibly accused of being to dating children. He was banned from malls. He was very clearly had some problems with being inappropriate children. And Al Franken had a picture of potentially inappropriate behavior, and they said those are the same thing. And the Democrats kicked Al Franken out, and the Republicans only lost Roy Moore because he actually lost by a small amount to Doug Jones. So that's the difference there. So if there should be an investigation to both these things, and if it finds out he has wrongdoing, then he should be removed, or whatever the penalty for, depending on which the thing he's found guilty for is he should suffer whatever the penalties for that. Nobody is above the law, and that's the problem. You can't allow people to, make this fake persona and then just duck it because they're like, no, he's on our side. If you do the wrong thing, you deserve to be punished. As simple as that. This should not be a debate. So the other thing we're going to cover is CPAC. So CPAC is currently going on right now. I'm going to flip very quickly to my notes because unfortunately I can't show them. But I have the CPAC agenda, and I'm gonna have to make a video of this because I did want to I did want to cover this. So one of the speakers, let me pull up exactly what his name was. Where are we? Friday. It was. D. Roy Murdoch. He is a Fox News contributor. He was talking about voting in democracy, and he brought up this Heritage Foundation election fraud cases. And I've taken a look at this, and I'm going to have to make a video of this after this. So this live stream is not going to be as long as I wanted it to because I realize I have to do some back-end stuff. So I'm going to have a couple videos out after this. So those videos I'm going to go through this. This is their site. His actual words were, you have to, if you don't think voter fraud is a problem, look at the Heritage Foundation. They found over 1,000 cases. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because what is the time frame for that? Did they find 1,000 cases during the current election? Even if they did, if it was during the 2020 election, it is bad, but it is not enough to invalidate the whole election, and it is not enough to invalidate or it is not enough for the vast amount of voter suppression laws that are coming out. It just isn't. So there's that. So I was going to look through it. I was looking through it, and I'm going to have a fun video about that one because even in their website does not have the things that they claim they're there. It's 1,000 cases, but it's from at least 2016, if not earlier. And even these are under the 2020 segments. I'll go over this later, but their arguments for that is wrong. I saw Ted Cruz was up. I was watching him a little bit. I mean, look, I'm going to go do a more in-depth coverage of CPAC on Monday with the Donald Trump speech. So far, we have seen a golden Donald Trump rolled out. Look, their whole CPAC speech is on the election. So I'm going to pull this up just to look at it very quickly. There's a whole bunch about election interference, why the left hates the Bill of Rights by Mike Lee. Protecting elections, freedom of speech, left is sold on free people, every generation, shining a light on the left shadow campaign. Let's see what else. And then the plot against the president, there's a movie for that. And then devaluing American citizenship, amendment rights, the left's own words, and that's going against Black Lives Matter. So, all right, I'm gonna have to make a video just going over just all of the just that piece, and then I'm gonna make a separate video going over the Heritage Fund. Actually, that'll all be one video. So very quick, this was a little bit shorter than I wanted it to because I was having some other technical difficulties. So look out for today. I'm going to make one, maybe two more videos. One of them is definitely going to be on the Heritage Foundation, and then it probably will also cover just what the list of CPAC is. So we'll go over that briefly. So I think I'm gonna sign up very quickly now, and then I'm going to get to work on those. So I'll have those videos out later, probably in about an hour or so. And that's where we're going to stand. So thank you for watching. I apologize that this one's going to be short. I forgot to alter something because I was having some technical difficulties, but I'll be back with the videos will be working fine later. And then when we can come back on Monday, I'll have more CPAC videos, and then by next Friday we should have everything working again. So once again, if you like the content that I make, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at FacesIdeas, and if you if you want to hear more from me, I'm also on the Center Left Radio podcast. So thank you very much.